Hey, it's Tuesday, and I've got a great conversation with our friend Bill Boyle, who I talk to just about every week these days. I do not have your news and clips, but I'll be back with the regular format tomorrow. I think you're going to love this conversation with Bill Boyle, where we did cover almost all of the news stories from the last 24 hours, or at least a lot of them, and got his expert insight. I don't know why he's an expert, because he just owns parking garages in Washington, D.C., but he seems to be a lot of people's one of their favorite guests. So I always love to check in with him. You can follow him on Blue Sky at Bill B in D.C. Check him out if you're in D.C. Here's today's conversation. Thank you very much for supporting me. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. If you aren't, we'll be back tomorrow with the regular news format. Here is Bill Boyle from last night.
All right. The great Bill Boyle, Bill B in D.C., joins me now. So much to talk about. Of course, we've got to start with the most important news story of the day, which I'm pretty sure you're familiar with, that the actor who plays Jack Reacher, Alan Ritchson, was attacked while he was out with his kids riding around on motorcycles, and he beat the shit out of his neighbor. Bill, you must have thoughts on this. What were they thinking attacking Reacher that way?
Well, so I saw the video, actually, and the guy is one of those dudes you see around in the burbs who gets real mad about people doing stuff. And clearly, it was apparently their second interaction. And I guess he assumed that because Alan, whatever his name is, didn't kick the shit out of him the first time, that he wouldn't the second time. But I thought it was a pretty efficient beatdown. What I saw of it. It was very efficient. It was pops to the rib cage, and I would
like to see him, throw the guy, toss the guy a bit.
Well, he was with his kids, and that's bad form.
Right.
You don't want to be throwing people into street lights or anything with your kids around.
Yeah, I mean, you've been there as a dad.
Oh.
You try to de-escalate, you try to do the right thing, you try to avoid the conflict, but hey, sometimes you gotta fight in front of your kids.
The kind of dude who runs out of his house screaming because you rode a motorcycle past it in the burbs. That guy in his heart of hearts wants you to punch him in the face.
Yeah. He says this was a huge story on TMZ all day. I don't ever pay any attention to TMZ, but if Jack Reacher is involved, but apparently the guy said that he had no idea who Alan Ritchson was. And that's, that's his fault, is what I would say. How do you not know that Jack Reacher lives on your block or near you? And how do you not recognize him when you see him? And even then, if you didn't recognize, how are you picking a fight with this hulk of a man?
Here's the thing. This guy is with two little kids and you're picking a fight with him.
Right.
By definition, you're a gigantic asshole.
Yes, that's a good point. Although maybe he thought he was putting his kids in danger. You got to teach other parents.
The kids are on these little 35cc mini bikes, just a ridiculous thing. I've lived in the burbs. I've known people like that. I'm happy this one got punched.
It is a ridiculous thing, and that's why I wanted to start with it, because everything else we have to talk about is not ridiculous. I do want to ask you just to get your reaction to a pretty big story today, which is horrific accident at LaGuardia Airport where a plane ran into a fire engine. There was apparently, the reports are there's only one air traffic controller in the tower. He was already dealing with one emergency where there was an odor on a plane. He was dealing with that one, and then he admits on the recording, you can hear him say, I messed up. But now everybody is reacting to the fact that there was apparently only one air traffic controller. Everybody has been talking about what's going on at the airports for years. In the first couple of weeks, there was that horrible accident in your town. Now another one in my town. And I'm talking, of course, about the military helicopter that collided with a commercial aircraft, killing everyone. Do you have any thoughts about what happened at LaGuardia? Is it to be blamed on the transportation secretary because he's been focused on putting exercise units in airports and not air traffic controllers in the towers?
I mean, that's the fucking job. Right? You want to be transportation secretary. You're responsible for what happens in the Department of Transportation, whether it's your fault officially or not. Also, we have, are the air traffic controllers covered by the standoff over the Department of Homeland Security?
Is their budget covered by that?
I'm not sure. So, but here's the thing, right? The bottom line is that these guys are responsible for it, whether they like it or not. They have made the federal government a really shitty place to work. I know that Duffy was stopping Doge from firing air traffic controllers when he came in. So it's just this, it's their fault. It's their I shouldn't say it's their fault. It's their responsibility. End of story. And the idea that they're pushing it off is ridiculous. There's one air traffic controller there. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. 1/9 of the entire U.S. economy goes through New York airports. Like, this is not a thing that any normal administration wouldn't be racing to fix.
Right.
And these guys can't, they can't tie their own shoes, basically, as we've seen in the Persian Gulf.
Well, that's where I'm going to next, of course. Today was a wild day on the war front. It's day maybe 23 of the U.S.-Israeli invasion into Iran. And over the weekend, our dear leader, our commander-in-chief, said that Iran had 48 hours to open the Strait of Hormuz, or else. I forget what the or else was, but I think he said...
The or else was they were going to bomb Iranian power plants, which is a war crime.
The reaction to that 48-hour threat from the Iranians was, we will escalate to say the shortest version. Is that right?
Yeah, and that's actually important to say what they said they would escalate.
Yeah, I don't have it down in front of me.
I can tell you. So what they said was, we will hit American refining, we will hit the refining facilities, we will hit the refining facilities of anyone supporting the United States, and we'll hit desalination plants. Now, the refining stuff, obviously, we've got crazy oil prices, and if you destroy the refineries, you can't fix them right away. So even if you destroy them, even if you open the Strait of Hormuz, it takes months, years to get back to where we were in terms of energy before the war. The desalination plants are a gigantic thing. Saudi Arabia gets 70% of its drinking water from desalination plants. Oman, UAE, Bahrain, etc., it's like 90% in all those cases. So you've got these countries that, they're not going to be sending in bottled water in enough volume to make up for the desalination plants that Iran could very easily destroy. So the U.S. is in a position, because Trump is a moron, of being in a strategic cul-de-sac. The U.S. can say they're going to bomb these power plants, and they could for sure. And Iran can retaliate with even greater power and force and with more strategic impact, or as much strategic impact. So what the United States has done again here under Trump is it's a larger power picking a fight with a smaller power, but doing so ineptly that it is now strategically at an impasse, that the Iranians have fought this war to a standstill, in effect.
So the next item or development was, I guess, this morning we woke up to news, and, this is how our world works now, is what did he post last night? And his own people have no idea what he's going to say.
That's right.
And in this case, what he said was they had amazing talks with the Iranians overnight, or they're having amazing talks. I'm paraphrasing here. And they are going to halt all military operations or bombing. Again, paraphrasing, but that's basically what Trump said this morning. The Iranians replied with, there have been no talks. He's scared and he's stuck. And that's, again, my interpretation. Tell me what I got wrong there. And also, just, this is so wild that he's done this for years, this technique, his whole career. He says he had a conversation with someone. He said he talked to a former U.S. president who basically said he was jealous that he never went into Iran. Reporters asked every former president, living president, and they all said, I haven't talked to him. Certainly not about that or anything. So he lied about that conversation with the former U.S. president. He's lying, apparently, about these talks with the Iranians, right? Or are they having talks? Is Witkoff and Kushner in talks with the Iranians? Have they made progress? Could it be true?
No, it's not true. I mean, it's not true. There's no way. I mean, have the Iranians maybe spoken to the Syrians or the Turks or somebody? Sure. But Witkoff and Kushner are, they're. Does anyone really think that the Iranians leadership who's been getting killed off because the Israelis are tracking their comms and through street cameras and everything else, think anyone's going to sit down for an interview if you're the head of the IRGC with Witkoff on the phone? You'd be dead in 10 minutes. So again, this gets at the sort of insanity of this whole thing, that the Trump administration is so untrustworthy and so violent. And by the way, Israel isn't talking about stopping, right? Israel's rolling along. And so the idea that there's talks are absurd. I mean, I say this to people all the time. The last two times that Iran was in negotiations with the United States, where it was apparently negotiating by all accounts in good faith, and where it was offering far better terms than it's offering now, the United States attacked them and in the second instance killed the leader of their country and his grandkids and his son's wife and whatever. Like the U.S. the Trump administration has no trust. No one trusts them, and nobody should, because they do not care. They don't give a fuck. They don't see creating trust with the Iranians or anyone else as a value. And think about how insane that is. Like in the Cold War, the whole deal was creating areas where the Russians and the United States could trust each other to stick to deals. That's what kept the Cold War from becoming a hot one. The Trump people just have no sense of that. They have no idea that it's a good idea. It's good for the United States to be seen as someone who doesn't try to kill you when you're negotiating over something.
It's crazy because it's true of any kind of deal, making any kind of negotiation. If I wanted to sell a refrigerator on Facebook Marketplace, which I just did, I got $50 for a college refrigerator. If I wanted to get a good review from my Uber driver, these are things that you play the long game. Right. You get a rating as a dealer, you get a rating as a negotiator, and you get a reputation as a world leader who breaks deals, and they're not even as good as the paper they're never written.
That's right. And when you're the kind of country that breaks all the deals that it gets into, you're the kind of country that, bombs indiscriminately, more or less, Iran, kills their leadership who you're supposed to be negotiating with. The Iranians no longer have any incentive to make a deal with the U.S. They don't, because they don't trust the U.S. to stick to the deal. They don't trust Trump to stick to any deal. And what Trump has done has basically been to kill off all the things the Iranians would want to keep, like their infrastructure, their leadership, et cetera. So why would they make a deal? They have nothing. They have nothing much to lose anymore. And that's where it is. And by the way, the Israeli government yesterday and the U.S. government today, the Pentagon and the IDF, said that at this point, getting and destroying the Iranian nuclear program is now unlikely to impossible. Regime change is now unlikely to impossible. So now the goal of the war, the IDF and the Pentagon have both announced, is to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, which was open 24 days ago until we attacked. And so our war aims are now to get back to the status quo ante, because the two things we said we really wanted to do, well, sorry, we didn't do it. So I've been a real joyful chap lately with the people I know who talk about this stuff, because I keep saying to them, we already lost. The United States lost this war, pretty much no matter what happens from here on in.
What do you make of all the speculation about how there might have been some kind of scandalous insider trading first of all, did Trump cave? Did he taco? Trump always chickens out. And did staffers and others in the White House or elsewhere know that he was going to do this and short the market as a result? A lot of people made a lot of money. The market lost trillions and then gained back trillions within a matter of minutes. Do I have that right?
It went down 2 trillion and up 1 trillion, something like that. Yeah, the market did. I would tell you that I am not sure that taco is in full effect. Because there are a lot of American ground troops heading very quickly towards the Middle East, towards the Arabian Peninsula. You can, if you look on my Blue Sky, which is Bill B in DC on Blue Sky, I posted, somebody has a list of all the C-130s that are racing to the Middle East as we speak, from around all of the SOCOM bases in the Southeast U.S. and elsewhere. So clearly, either someone is strongly signaling that U.S. Special Forces are on their way, or they are, and I suspect they are. 82nd Airborne has been moving. Marine, MEU units, like, amphibious groups are moving. There's a lot of U.S. ground troops moving towards the Middle East. And this could either be that Trump is truly trying to wind things down, or it could just be that he's delaying until they have ground troops in place to make yet another and even more egregious strategic blunder like seizing Karg Island or trying to hold on to the Iranian side of the Strait of Hormuz or something insane like that. But by the way, that would be a gigantic error, because what the Iranians really want is American ground troops in the reach of their ground forces and their drones. As to the trades that popped up, somebody 15 minutes before this all flipped one way and then the other did $1.5 billion, or some few people did $1.5 billion worth of trades and made killing on futures. It was on futures trades on oil. I would say that if I were those people, I think that's an incredibly, I'm sure it's so tempting if you're sitting around the White House and hearing all this stuff. But Trump's not going to remember to pardon everybody. And there's going to be, these are paper transactions. Someone 5 years from now is going to be able to look and go, okay, Lutnick's kid went and did this trade because he was on the phone with his father that day. Right? Like, it's going to be really pretty easy, I think, in a lot of these cases to nail people. And if Trump kicks the bucket next week, hope so. Trump kicks the bucket next week. Does Vance want to pardon a ton of people when he's got to run in 2028 and he's not Donald Trump? Who knows? Maybe Vance says, fuck it wasn't me. I don't know. I'm pulling out of this war and I'm anti-corruption guy, right? Like, so it's a really wild thing that how these folks are just diving in and just cashing in. And I think a lot of them are going to pay for it in the end.
The war is entering its fourth week. No clear end in sight. If your reporting of the reporting is accurate, they're sending more troops into the region, including ground troops, Marines, special forces that are already there, and so on. There was a lot of talk about this Karg Island, which is obviously strategically important for a lot of reasons. But last night, Trump caved. Just going back to that point.
Well,
I mean, not sure.
He said he caved last night, and he certainly gave that signal out to the world. But you've got to remember with Trump, whoever was in the room with him last is what he's going to go with. And so, Vance and apparently Rubio and those guys said, don't fucking do this. Trump said today it was Hegseth that convinced him to do it. So whoever Trump is with, and this is again, like this administration, you can't predict very clearly what they're going to do because who knows who's in Trump on any given day. Something about Karg Island, by the way, for the Trump people, because they're driven, they're total amateur real estate guys when it comes to strategy, but they're avaricious, greedy people. They're looking at Karg Island and going, we could control all of Iran's oil refining. And so then we could have the country by the balls. We could do what we did in Venezuela, and we could take 10% off the top in exchange for opening their oil. There's two huge problems with this. Number one, the Trump administration allowed the Iranians to sell $14 billion worth of oil. So Iran has $14 billion it didn't have a couple weeks ago in easy to access banks. They're clean. They're not doing covert maneuvering or anything to get that money. And on top of that, there's another place, and the name begins with a J, down the coast, but on the Gulf of Oman. There's another oil loading facility. Karg Island can do 1 million barrels a day. The other place down the coast is Javal, can do 300,000 barrels a day. So you could take Karg Island, but the Iranians could still put out a third of their product through their port in the Gulf of Oman, and they've got another one in Caspian Sea that could do maybe another 100,000. So they can survive without Karg Island. And then, of course, you'll have X number of American troops a couple miles off the coast of Iran getting the shit pounded into them of drones, and it's within range of tube artillery. Regular old artillery from the coast can hit Karg Island. So the Iranians can just pound the crap out of these guys, and you'll have, Afghanistan 2 electric boogaloo.
I don't like the way you said that.
Yeah, well, it's just, it's that stupid.
What about the Trump and the administration savaging NATO and NATO's leadership weak response? You posted about that. Why is that significant?
Well, NATO wasn't attacked. Article 5, Article 4, that's supposed to be put in force when a NATO member gets attacked. The United States and Israel just attacked Iran. There's no question that NATO is under assault here. And these countries have had Trump basically. Europe is paying for, certainly, and supplying almost everything that Ukraine needs to defend against Russia right now. The U.S. is selling weapons. We're no longer giving Ukraine anything. So the Ukrainians have taken on this huge burden that, by the way, benefits the United States. Ukraine winning helps the U.S. a lot. And Trump is now saying, well, yeah, but I started some other war of choice in the Middle East that creates all these strategic problems and this incredibly difficult, Strait of Hormuz issue. You come in and fix it now. I mean, that's absolutely insane. And there's no way the Europeans are now wrapping their heads around the idea that they don't need to, the U.S. isn't going to support them. So guess what, fellas? We're going to fight our war in Ukraine, and you can deal with this.
We also found out reporting suggests that and the Europeans were planning. They had some kind of plans around Greenland, like preparing for a potential U.S. invasion. They were preparing for it.
They were going to blow up the runways at Nuuk, and they're still, by the way, those troops are still there, still ready to do that. So that American
airplanes, fighter jets, or whatever couldn't.
If someone tries to land, they'll pothole the runways so that they can't be used. And that that gets at how seriously the Europeans are treating this. They're saying, okay, this guy's actually fucking nuts. He's dumb enough to try this. So we have to defend ourselves.
A couple other just quick ones that I want to get your reaction to. What did you make of the conversation between our dear leader and the Japanese prime minister and him bringing up Pearl Harbor last week? I just had to get your take on that. What do the Japanese think? What does the world think? What are we to think? It's so embarrassing, so awful, so stupid. He seemed to think that the Japanese reporter asking him the question was there for Pearl Harbor and the subsequent war. What are your thoughts on that? I got to ask you.
So Japan attacking us in Pearl Harbor was a terrible thing and awful and stupid and strategically idiotic, etc. And at the end of a war in which within 6 months we dominated and ended up nuking 2 of their cities, we won profoundly, powerfully, overwhelmingly, to a degree that Japan has been our pretty bosom ally ever since. Like, as far as the Japanese are concerned, the U.S. is it. We are their buddy. We keep Russia out. We keep China out. And Japan does all kinds of things to help the U.S. out, including like supporting our bases in the Far East and Northeast Asia, etc. Trump just did a full-on fuck you insult to somebody who has been good for him. And by the way, he's hurt her politically in Japan. Because people in Japan were like, fuck this. You should have told this guy to go fuck himself. And of course, she's a good diplomat. She didn't do that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. She's getting a lot of criticism in Japan for not forcefully responding to that.
I don't read the Japanese newspapers.
Asahi Shimbun, man, it's great. But, it's
of course. It's
just an utterly childish, inconsiderate, unstrategic. We have a weird sociopath running the United States right now, or I shouldn't say running the United States, but sitting in the White House. And people need to sort of digest fully what that means. This is the guy who controls the nukes. This is the guy who's getting us into wars we've never intended on. By the way, Americans, I think it's something like we're gonna spend collectively something like $300 million more on gasoline this month than we would have if the war in Iran had not been started by us.
He was asked today if he still needs the $200 billion.
Of course he said yes.
If he's ended the military conflict. If it's over, does he still need the $200 billion? He says, it'd be nice to have.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, Trump is acting in other really insane ways. Like, for instance, Kennedy, Thune, and Ted Cruz put together a deal where everything but ICE would be funded. And the Democrats said, sure, we'll go along with that. That makes sense. And they went to the White House. Trump said, nope, I'm just not doing it unless you get the SAVE Act through. The Republicans cannot get the SAVE Act through, the voting bill they want to do. It's impossible for them, the votes they have, to get that through. So Trump is basically, and then like was very open about it in the media that like he was the one stopping the resolution of this problem in the airports. And then he's adding ICE into the mix, where ICE has already had a couple of egregiously shitty, seizures of people in airports, while some, the one I saw of a Latina woman where her daughter's sobbing as ICE guys like drag this woman away, who turns out is an American citizen.
Shocking.
So like everything he's doing, like in one level, people used to think his superpower was he just doesn't really give a shit about the politics. Pete, this midterms is going to shape up to be just a fucking bloodbath, I think, because I don't think anyone feels happy. No one's happy. No one's happy about the economy. No one's happy about this war. No one's happy with the price of gas, inflation, immigration enforcement. There are people who say like Trump's numbers on immigration are just a little underwater, but then you say ICE and the numbers for ICE are like in the cellar. So, and I think that what we're heading towards is like a real wipeout, political wipeout. And then we're going to have the last 2 years of Trump where he's going to get crazier and weirder, and we just need to get through it.
If he's still there.
If he survives, yeah. I mean, certainly doesn't take care of himself, but, remember too that there's other scenarios like Trump is incapable of governing. But you can't get the cabinet to do the 25th Amendment because they're so afraid of his shadow. It's like Stalin. They're afraid he'll wake up. And you might end up with this weird rump government of like Stephen Miller and Rubio and J.D. Vance sort of fighting it out what we do every day as a government in the executive branch, while Trump sits moldering in a bed in Walter Reed.
What did you make, by the way, of his grotesque comments after Robert Mueller passed away this past weekend?
Well, I have a Robert Mueller action figure up there.
Is that right?
You've seen that before, actually. Yeah, I'll put it online somewhere. But it totally makes sense. He's a piece of shit. He's a narcissistic sociopath. So to him, the guy being, Robert Mueller is everything that Trump is not.
Right.
Forthright, honest, went to Vietnam, respected. Purple Heart, like a guy who is the real deal. And of course, Trump hates him because Robert Mueller even dresses better. I mean, there's no, Robert Mueller is like the classic 1960s WASP uniform, and he makes it look great. And Trump is a weirdo in a billowy suit with cankles.
It does not make it look great.
No.
Just going back to the airports, you've got ICE at the airports now. That's going to go over really well.
I'm going to tell you, we canceled our spring break trip.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and a ton of people are going to do that. We looked at, not because I'm afraid of ICE, but I looked at the lines and all the bullshit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm going to. I'm hoping people won't be discouraged to go to Vegas for Pod Jam because that's right. my next flight. I'm also taking Julia to Amsterdam. I got 2 flights coming up. I'm not looking forward to either one of those. I mean, the idea that there's going to be these horrifically long lines that affects public opinion. Even if you don't fly, you see them, you're like, wow, we're like third world over here.
Think of what it's going to do to tourism this summer.
Well,
expensive gas.
I can't imagine we're still going to have those types of lines. Like, this can't last much longer, these lines at the airport.
Sure. If Trump doesn't agree to it and the Republicans in Congress won't tell him to go fuck himself and pass something, this can go on forever.
They can't be closing down airports. They're talking about potentially closing down smaller
airports.
I
can see them doing it. These are dumb people who are extremists. And it's going to take a lot for the Republicans in Congress to discover where their balls are.
I don't know that
they have any left.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I appreciate you checking in with me. Covered most of what I wanted to. And I really appreciate it. I always love getting your insights on all of these things. Such important last couple days. So I appreciate you helping me recap it, sir.
Excellent. And by the way, my tagline here tonight is "So calm, uranium Sherpa." I'm about to head out and try to seize the 900 and some odd pounds of uranium from Iran. So wish me luck.
I don't think that's going to be possible for the specialist of special forces, but
it's an extraordinarily bad idea. And if they tried, a lot of good people are going to die.
Well, if you tried, you'd have to have a secure perimeter of like miles and miles so that you could then guard the special forces that are going to go into some mountain to get this stuff where they don't know.
Heavy equipment.
It's like more impossible than a Tom Cruise Mission Impossible.
It is incredibly stupid and weird and crazy. And
yep.
You know what? That maybe is exactly why they'll try it.
Bill Boyle, everybody. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, my friend. Have a good week.
All right, that's what I've got for you today. I will be back with more later. Scheduled to be live with Glenn Kirshner at 11 a.m. today. We'll see if that happens. Maybe more, maybe not. But tomorrow, a full show. Thank you very much for your support. Hope to see you in Pod Jam in Vegas. Just weeks away now, less than. And I'm very much looking forward to it. Get your tickets. See you there. Talk to you tomorrow.
Trees, you got to stand up. Hey, you've been sitting so long, you got the creaky knees, you got to stand up. Stand up. I think you're driving wheels been leaking grease. Boy, you better stand up. Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You got to stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You got to stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear and all you hear is a lie. So get up off of your butt, down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up, stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up, stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up, stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up, stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up, they had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. Why you lying awake wondering where the money all went? It'll be the cost of freedom that'll go unspent. You can see him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. All right, we got to speak up, we got to reach up, and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well